Now available for the first time in paperback. Why 70% of black women are single. Learn all the reasons why so many black women can't find a husband and why 70% of black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today. Recently, Stanford University professor Ralph Richard Banks wrote an op ed piece in the New York Post saying that more black women should consider marrying white men. Now, your Ralph Richard Banks is an educated professional black man from Stanford University and has been a professor there for so many years. And I have to wonder how such an educated black man could write such a stupid article. Now, the reason why I'm scratching my head about how this educated black man could write a stupid article like this is because this article is a passive aggressive hit piece on heterosexual black men. Passively, this mangina is going out here telling black women to consider marrying white men, but aggressively, he's going out here bootlicking for white supremacy by writing a hit piece designed to take a swipe at heterosexual black men. And I really find it sad that your Ralph Richard Banks clearly did not do his research before writing this article because he's got a lot of facts absolutely wrong about why these black women, like your Kamala Harris and your Ketanji Brown Jackson, are out here married to white men. Now, your Ralph Richard Banks goes on to make an allegation that the real reason why women like your Kamala Harris and your Ketanji Brown Jackson are married to white men is because there is a shortage of so-called educated professional black men in the circles that these black women travel. And that is a complete lie because from what I've seen from my travels, there are lots of educated professional black men out there like myself. Unfortunately, your women like your Kamala Harris and your Ketanji Brown Jackson really go out of their way to impede the progress of those educated brothers from moving up into the social circles of a Kamala Harris or a Ketanji Brown Jackson because these females want to be the H nice, and because they want to be the H nice, they make an effort to go out here and eliminate any professional educated black man like myself from the business and social circles that they're in. That's the main reason why there are not many educated professional black men in their circles for them to date and marry, because many of these women, once they get their jobs in high positions, they become the H nice, and even worse, they get the I got mine, screw you mentality. And because they get the I got mine, screw you mentality, they believe that they are better than any other heterosexual black man. And when they see a heterosexual black man in a business circle, they don't go out of their way to help that black man move up in business circles, and they don't help those black men be able to get jobs in those business circles. No, women like your Kamala Harris and your Ketanji Brown Jackson actively participate in something I call the HR brick wall, and I ran into that brick wall back when I was looking to get a civil service job back in 2007 working with the City University of New York. And as I was trying to get this office assistant job at the City University of New York, I experienced that HR brick wall firsthand, where these females, especially these black females, would go out of their way to find ways to deny heterosexual black men like myself any sort of job that would allow them to move up professionally. So the reason why there is a shortage in their social circles is because many of these women actively go out here and deny heterosexual black men opportunities at employment, And once they get opportunities to see a black man who's trying to advance, what these women do is they prevent many black men like myself from going out here and getting promoted on the job. And that's because they don't want any black men to be in positions of power. And one of the reasons I believe a lot of these women do not want black men to be in positions of power on the job is because they fear a heterosexual black man being in a leadership position, one, and two, because many of these women have serious daddy issues, and because a lot of these women did not have their fathers in their lives, they subconsciously take out their anger on their black father, on educated, professional black men like myself, and they go out here and look for ways to impede our ability to progress in the business world. And when they go out here and look to impede us, they're subconsciously getting back at their fathers. And that's why you don't see these women out here actively able to find any sort of black man, because they make efforts to eliminate any educated professional brother out here in any sort of business and social circle, because many of these women have a deep-seated hatred and contempt for heterosexual black men, and that's why these women go out of their way to eliminate those men. And even if they ran into those men, these women, from my own personal experience, express lots of contempt for an educated professional brother, and they express that contempt in the way that they look at us, the way that they act towards us, and they have no interest in having any sort of relationship with any heterosexual black man. So it's clear to me that the writer here, even though he's a college professor, your Ralph Richard Banks, clearly did not do his research that I did, because as an educated professional black man with his own business, I have seen these kinds of women in my social interactions in real life and on social media. And many of these kinds of black women, they are not really interested in marrying black men because of a so-called shortage. From my experience, I have seen many professional brothers out here and talked to many brothers out here who are making six figures, many who have good jobs, and many of these brothers, when they're out here, they are telling me that these kind of sisters are not interested in a relationship with a black man. No, many of these women are looking for white men, and they were looking for white men from day one. And it's just like the late, great David Carroll used to say, these kinds of women, they are looking for white men, because basically many of these women, like your Ketanji Brown Jacksons and your Kamala Harrises, they deify and worship white men. And because they deify and worship white men, they want to go out here and have relationships with those white men, because that white man in their eyes is God, because this is what they have been taught from day one and programmed in their minds by their mothers and this white supremacist system. Now, your Kamala Harris is a biracial, and she only is in her home. Her mother was an Indian woman, I believe, so she was taught to worship white men from day one. And your Ketanji Brown Jackson probably had a worship of white men as well. And it's that worship of white men that has these women looking for a white partner first. And when they look for that white partner, one of the reasons they look for that white man is because Madison Avenue and Hollywood told them that this white man would be a better partner than a black man, and her being with that white man would have more social benefits than being with a black man. So a lot of these women, they travel in these social circles actively looking for these white men. Some of them look for this white man because they want to go out here and believe that he is God. Others are with him because that white man's seed has more value to those black women than a black man. So many of these so-called educated professional black women, they go out here and actively look for a white man because they want the white man's seed, or as some YouTubers used to call it, the white man's milk, and because they want that milk to produce the biracial children, they actively go looking for that white man. Now, another group of these black women actively seek these white men because they have these fantasies of being like Olivia Pope on Scandal. And your Olivia Pope was one of these professional black women who would rather be the side piece to the President of the United States and not a husband to an educated brother. And many of your women, like your Kamala Harris, they have no problem being a side piece to white men, and then they find themselves a white man to marry it because they want to advance their careers and move themselves forward. Now, your Ralph Richard Banks clearly shows me he does not do his research with this hit piece, because this piece is basically designed to take a swipe at black men and saying, oh, there's not enough of you educated brothers out here like himself to go out here and pick up any of these professional black women. But it's clear to me he doesn't understand that these so-called educated professional black women were never checking for any of those black men. And many of what he's doing with this propaganda piece is continuing to further the narratives of your swirlers and hashtag divestors like your Cynthia G's and many of her ilk that plague platforms like YouTube. And because these women actively go out here and plague platforms like YouTube, promoting these kinds of narratives, they take hit pieces like this propaganda written by this so-called professor, and they use it as ammunition to go out here and say that here's someone that reinforces their talking points. When in actuality, what your Ralph Richard Banks is doing is just going out here and proving Professor David Carroll's point that all you're doing is putting the dysfunction of the black man on display, because the only kind of black man who would actively go out here and promote this kind of narrative is an extremely dysfunctional one, because there is no other man of any other race who is going to actively go out here and write an article talking about how the women of his race should go out here and choose black men. I guarantee you, you will not see an Asian professor writing an article saying, oh, Asian women should choose black men, or a white man saying, oh, white women should choose black men, because the men in their society have a standard for their community, and they have rules of engagement for actively being involved in their community. And because these men protect their territory, when they hear of someone going out here and writing an article telling the women of his community to go out here and pursue relationships with men outside of their race, what they do is they punish said individual with ostracization, and they let that man know that he is not going to be a part of their community. Unfortunately, black men as a collective sadly are weak, and instead of us coming together as a collective to send a message to a Ralph Richard Banks that he is completely out of line, many of these brothers, because they do not know how to protect territory and take their respect as men, they will give someone like a Ralph Richard Banks a pass for writing this self-hating drivel calling itself an article. But Sean James, a professional, educated brother, is not going to give your Ralph Richard Banks a pass, because I don't care about what Ivy League university this minstrel comes from. As a black man, I will not allow this man to disrespect black men by writing an article like this, and I will not allow him to mislead sisters by presenting this anti-black propaganda, making it where you're going to elevate a white man above our brothers out here, when there are lots of educated brothers out here who are actively looking for relationships with our beautiful sisters out here. A lot of professional, educated brothers like myself who maybe we're not making the big money, but we're trying to build something of our own, and we're out here actively taking care of business. And a lot of us would like to have a sister at our side as a helpmeet, but you have clowns like this from academia who want to push false narratives, trying to tell black women that they need to choose a white man, when there are lots of brothers out here and ready to go out here and have relationships with them. And these kind of guys like your Ralph Richard Banks, all they want to do is write these hit pieces to attack black men and mislead our sisters and send them down a road to self-destruction, because the white men that your Ralph Richard Banks wants your black women to go out here and pursue, these are some of the worst white men in society. And I guess your Ralph Richard Banks really did not get to look at the videos of Kid Organic, who can show you numerous videos of what happens when your black women go out here and actively pursue white men, and when the swirling and the hashtag divesting go absolutely wrong. Your Kid Organic has presented several videos where we have seen many of these educated professional black women with all of the degrees and the big job, and they don't get out here and get the kind of white men your Ketanji Clown Jackson and your Kamala Harris go out here and get. No, the white men that they get involved are like the beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And these low seed white men, these white men go out here and get with black women. And the reason why they get with black women is because the white women in their communities don't want anything to do with them. And the reason why those white women don't want anything to do with those white men is because many of those white men are ticking time bombs that are simmering and boiling in anger, and many of these men oftentimes are more dangerous than most of these black women think. But because these black women only see the white skin that covers a multitude of sins and imperfections, they can't see the danger that they would be getting involved with if they get involved with this white man. Because I wonder if your Ralph Richard Banks ever heard about the black woman who was almost beaten to death by Seattle Seahawks former player Chad Wheeler, a man who just beat up his black girlfriend and was sitting there watching her, waiting for her to die. Or did he hear the story about Chet Hanks, the son of Tom Hanks, and the domestic violence incident where he and his girlfriend got into a fight and he got cut? And did he hear about Chet Hanks having a black female baby mama? Are these the kinds of men that your Ralph Richard Banks consider to be quality white men? And would he even consider the white man who went out here and lit his black girlfriend on fire and burned most of her body and disfigured it. Would he consider that to be the kind of white man a black woman should marry? That's the critical question I want to sit here and ask your Ralph Richard Banks, the so-called educated college professor, because the trend of these so-called swirling and divesting relationships is getting more and more violent, and many of these white men are going out here and participating in acts of domestic violence like your Chad Wheeler did and your Chet Hanks allegedly did, and like this white man who allegedly set fire to his girlfriend. And many of those white men, they go out here and actively do this because, one, these are beta males who are ticking time bombs, rejects that white women don't want, and they don't want them because these men are dangerous. And most of these white men, they inflict this violence on these black women because they believe they can go out here and get away with it because, again, their white skin covers a multitude of sins and imperfections in white supremacist society, and these men know that a black life has less value in the white supremacist court system than a black woman's life. So your Ralph Richard Banks wants to talk about, oh, black women should consider white men. Well, I think your black women need to be educated on how dangerous these white men are becoming because we're seeing a disturbing trend as related to the domestic violence that these white men have been participating in interracial relationships. And had maybe your Ralph Richard Banks done his research by watching the videos of Kid Organic and Brian Solange, or even just going out here and reading the articles that many people send to me, maybe he wouldn't have put fingers to the keyboard for this trash article that is designed to, again, to take a swipe at the brothers and mislead the sisters and make them believe, oh, these old false narratives made up by people like Terry McMillan who sit there and talk about, oh, there's a shortage of good professional brothers. No, there's no shortage of good professional brothers. No, a lot of our sisters have been miseducated by these academics like your Ralph Richard Banks, this self-hating minstrel, and they have been told a lie that, oh, there are no good brothers out there because they're not of a certain economic condition. But the main reason why a lot of those brothers can't get to that economic condition is because many of these sisters have been miseducated in these universities to see the black man as their enemy by your white feminist, your white leftist, and all of these other people who want to demonize the black man and see him as a big, walking, talking, violent penis, but don't want to see a black, heterosexual black man like myself as an intelligent professional. I mean, here I am, a guy who has written and published over 80 books, many of which are considered to be on the same level of a Ralph Richard Banks, like Stop Simping and The Man Crisis, and Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. But this academic goes out here and writes the stupidest op-ed piece I have practically ever read in my life. I mean, your Ralph Richard Banks, as I see it, needs to turn in his man card because it's clear to me that he has no testicles at all, because only a weak man with no testicles is going to go out here and write an article telling the women of his own community not to marry the men of their own community and to go out here and date outside of their own race. Because as I was reading this article, I heard all of the self-hating talking points of your swirlers, of your divestors, and the same self-hating talking points of your women like your Terry McMillan and Oprah Winfrey, and a few from the white supremacists who have an anti-black narrative and want to push anti-black racism as a social norm. So I was deeply disgusted by this article, by this so-called pseudo-intellectual, because after listening to people like the late, great intellectual juggernaut David Carroll and educated brothers like Akwesi 100, and who, he doesn't have all the degrees, but that is one brilliant brother, guys like Brian Solange and many others, I can tell you, and from doing my own research, that this article is nothing more than a hit piece, very similar to the ridiculous hit piece whereby that other minstrel who sat there and said straight black men are the new white people. Well, this straight black man is going to bring the straight facts to everyone, and the straight facts is that there are a lot of brothers out here looking for sisters, but many of these self-hating sisters like your Kamala Harrises and your Ketanji Brown Jacksons, they aren't looking for a black man. No, they're looking for a white zaddy, and they're looking for a white zaddy because they want a biracial child, they want to be the side piece, and they worship white men, and they see a white man as God, and that's the reasons why they want a black man, not a black man, a white man, because they go out here and they see they go out here and they don't see a black man as having any sort of value. They don't love black men. They have no interest in black men. All they want to do is find excuses to get with white men. And it's really sad that this mangina goes out here and gives them more ammunition to use against black men, and go out here and reinforce the talking points of self-hating black women and try to make it a narrative for all black women. Many of our sisters want black men. Many of our sisters love black men. Many of our sisters want relationships with black men. And I wonder, when is somebody going to do a video like I did, or an article or blogs like I do, talking about black on black love? And when is somebody going to start publishing articles talking about how black men and black women actively love each other? In many of my books, I talk about black on black love, and many of my stories are featuring black love. And we don't talk about black women going out here and talking about loving black men. No, that doesn't seem to be the articles that your educated black professional wants to talk about, because I guarantee you he doesn't want to talk about it because he wants him some white woman. And that's the reason why he wants to go out here and promote this self-hating hit piece, taking a shot at black men, taking a shot at heterosexual black women, and taking a shot at black on black love, and taking a shot at the black community, making it where you're pushing a narrative saying that it is impossible for black women to find black men. No, there are sisters who can go out here and find quality brothers every day, but these types of females, they're Kamala Harrises and your Ketanji Brown Jacksons, they're not looking for a black man because they want to go out here and be a part of white supremacy. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books featuring positive images of black women and black men, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.